Hi, in this session we will talk about the introduction to data warehouse, but before we do that we actually want to kind of understand what are the prerequisites you should have to learn data warehousing very effectively. Now data warehousing is an area where we are going to capture lot of data from your various operational systems, which will be helpful for you to analyze the data for the management community. Now before we get into the data warehousing world, first we will just make sure you understand the basic principles of data and databases as well as the OLTP applications. To begin with, we will talk about what is data. So now how do you define data? The data is any kind of an information which helps you to run your business. So when I say run your business, your day-to-day operations need some data to be captured, to be retrieved so that you run your business. So whenever we do develop an application to run your operations, we capture operational data. So in the future we will talk about what is analysis data. So now I just talked about what is operational data. Operational data is any information which helps to run day-to-day activities of a business. Now what is database? A database is a storage system where you capture all the data in one place or to manage very effectively. That is what a database system is all about. So we usually call it as database management system. Then the next one what we are talking about is what is an RDBMS. So when it comes to RDBMS, it's a relational database management systems where you create entities which we call it as tables at the database level, and we relate the different tables what we have through relationships. So even an RDBMS is a type of database, but it has more flexibility. So that when the business changes, it is easy to accommodate those changes in RDBMS compared to the other types of DBMS. Now when it comes to the relation, what do you mean by relation? A relation is nothing but the relationship what we have between two different tables. So if you take an example of a customer and the employee, maybe one employee serves multiple customers in their questions. At the same way, when a customer calls the company, the customer can be answered by any employee. So the relationship between customer and employee in this case is many-to-many relationship. So there are three types of relationships we have: one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, and many-to-many relationship. Only RDBMS supports all three different kind of relationship between the entities. Now we will talk about what is data model. A data model is kind of an architecture diagram through which you can visualize the data. Okay, so as a data person. So now what is the other alternative definition we can give? It's a pictorial representation of how your business actually stores the data and how these entities are related. Sometimes we call it as ER model. So entity relationship model. Entity relationship model is nothing but creating the tables, including creating the logical tables, including the primary keys, foreign keys, the data types, the constraints, and providing relationship. That relationship is usually one-to-one or one-to-many relationships at the logical data model. So by just as a developer, if you see the data model of an application, then you will know what are all the entities we are dealing with, so that we can ask the right questions or we can answer the questions what we are getting it from the business. So that is what a data model is. So in this particular prerequisite session, we are just going to talk about what is what. Now at a very high level we give the definition. We are not getting into very detailed analysis on each one of this topic what we are talking here. Now think about the next question. Why do we follow normalization while designing the model? So if you take a brief look at what is normalization, normalization is a process through which we identify the redundant data and we remove the same, right? So by removing the redundant data, what is the advantage we get? We basically save the space. So that is one of the advantage. What is the other advantage you get? Your transactions are pretty much running very, very fast. That is another advantage you get get from your normalization. Because in operational systems, you have to insert data faster, or you have to update data faster, or you have to delete the data faster. It should not take its own sweet time to do a specific transaction. My transaction should be very, very fast in the operational systems. If you go to an ATM, how long you wait in a queue? If your ATM is going to take 3 minutes to disperse the amount, you will feel this system is not very efficient because it has to go do so many operations behind the scenes. So if you normalize the table to third normal form or fourth normal form or fifth normal form, then your efficiency of operating it becomes very, very high. Now the more the normalization you do, the better it is for your transaction speed. So two advantages I told you. One is basically we save the space. The second one is your operational transactions run faster. Now when we do normalization, when you will end up having multiple tables as the result of the normalization. If you are writing a query which is based on 4 different tables, your query runs slow because it has to do the join process. If you write a query against one table, your query runs faster because it doesn't need to do the extra join process and stuff like that. Okay, so what is the disadvantage of normalization? So we can say advantage. So advantage is your transactions runs faster. What is the disadvantage? Disadvantage is your complex SQL runs slow. Okay, so this is the high level of normalization. Now we will talk about what is OLTP system. What is OLTP stands for? OLTP is Online Transaction Processing System. Well, give me an example of what is an online transaction processing system. Any system, okay, which helps to run a company, we call it as an OLTP system. Say we call it, HR system of any company. What does HR system of any company do? It takes care of day-to-day operations of HR resources or HR employees, like like processing the payroll. That's one of the thing. And if there are any questions raised by the employee of a company, HR takes care of it. The training requirements is taken care of HR. The recruitment process is taken care by HR. Creating an offer letter is taken care of by HR. All these different day-to-day activities will be assisted by through this particular software. So we call that as an operational system because this particular system is used by HR resources on day-to-day basis. Now what is an application layer and what is the data layer? So we'll go to the next one. So any application if you take, there is a presentation layer, and in the presentation layer we capture the data or we display the data. Say for example, if you created an application for the HR system, in HR system where the data feeds in, when a new employee joins or when a new timesheet is being entered by an employee, so these are all the places where you are feeding the data to your system, but where you are feeding it from an application screen. So that screen can be based on .NET Java or it can be a web browser. So there are many ways you push the data into your system. That is taken care by your application layer. So the application layer is usually done based on .NET, Java or many other languages what you know to develop an application. So now what is the data layer? The data what you are going to get from this application layer gets stored in a database. That is called as the data layer. Okay, so why we are concentrating on this one for prerequisite to data warehouse? because we worry about only the data layer when it comes to data warehousing system, we don't worry about the application layer at all. So that is the reason we want to put it across here. So now the last one is, it's a thought process you need to have so that you can understand the data warehousing better. In a company, how many operational systems usually you will have? Using one system, you cannot take care of all the information, and you cannot run the entire organization. HR runs based on HR application. Your CRM, customer relationship management needs a CRM application so that they can generate the leads, so that they can do a follow up and calculate the conversion ratio.